Hello there, Eredrim17 once again. This is some Mortal Shell boss fights. They're done on New Game Plus 6, and the intention of them was to do them no roll, no damage. However, there are a couple of other stipulations which I'm going to explain at the beginning here, because the fights go quite quickly except for the middle one, and I don't really have much chance to talk about the nuance and the minutiae of what went into this. So my intention here, ladies and gentlemen, was to do New Game Plus on its maximum cycle, which is apparently 6. I don't know if that's true. I would have gone to 7, but you know, somebody told me it was plus 6, so that's, alas, here we are, trying this one out. And I wanted to try to do it with a variety of different weapons so that I was swapping between the weapons and having a pretty good time. I also wanted to try potentially doing things like no harden and no parry. And if you know anything about New Game Plus, you'll know that when you harden on this difficulty, you take damage during the harden. So for me, I thought 100% I wasn't going to be able to harden, and thus I was going to make strategies that were just purely no roll, no hardening, no parrying. And it turns out that there are certain times when you harden where you can survive things, and I'm going to use it for a specific part of a specific fight, and I'm going to explain why. But it led to this unique moment of, I also didn't want to parry on the things I knew I could parry, because I wanted to try to do different things. So there's a lot of these strategies here, guys, that when you can simply roll, you can put on so much pressure on these bosses, you can keep them infinitely knocked down, and then just loop them with really, really powerful resolve moves, and they look insignificant. The reason why I'm not going to be sharing the final boss in this series of videos is purely because some of the moves to no roll are so cancer that the easiest thing to do is just do the boss loop. And all the boss loop is looping knockdowns using the Hollowed Sword's resolve attack, because it has this wonderful ability when you have 2 bars, which you get very quickly, to knock the bird down as it goes under the water, even when it's not technically there. And it's just a fight of 3-hit combos into resolve move, into knockdown, into repeat. It's not fun to watch, it's not interesting, but that boss is so dog shit, I don't care, and I don't want to do it. So instead, what you have here, guys, is I tried to come up with some fun stuff, and I'm really, really happy with the Imrod fight, and I'm relatively happy with the Tarsus fight. The biggest issue with the Tarsus fight is I threw a parry out because I was in a bit of a bad position, and I actually landed it. I didn't expect to land it, and I wasn't going to parry, but that's one of those bosses that I never parry, and if you can roll, you can just destroy him in some crazy, crazy ways, so it didn't really matter too much. But the big shit pit was the middle one. The middle one has got a couple of things that I want to talk about that were really, really unique, and it's odd in this tier of fights because it's actually the one that isn't the best result. I recorded a fight that was much quicker than this once I got this one, but I want to share this one because it gives me longer to talk about what I think is messing up and potentially something that has changed. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's get to the battles. So here is Imrod, and Imrod has this move, this double swinging move you just saw him do after a run. That is the worst move that he has, because he can cancel it out of almost any animation, and the start of it has a hitbox that is active immediately nowhere near where the swing is. So if you're close enough to this boss when he does that move, you are dead. Everything else he has, you can no-roll that move, you can no-roll his kicks. His really quick horizontal slash is one of those moves that you can't really do much with except for run away. Everything else is really cool and really fair, except the fire. And the fire here is the big issue, because he starts breathing fire on the right hand side, and if you're on his left hand side it sets you on fire even though it visually never touches you. So the fire here is absolute garbage, and then if you harden, you're going to break the rules of this particular boss fight that I'm doing, so I can't even do that. And the only other way to survive being set on fire is to spam roll, which goes against the no rolling. So if you get set on fire here, it's a reset. Luckily, in the second phase, he's very keen to kick you away, and you can exploit this by getting some massive damage and some big knockdowns, but be careful, because at any moment he might instantly cancel into the double swings and you will die. So what you want to do here if you're using resolve, because if you don't use resolve, guys, these fights are much slower because you can't take any risks. But all I do when I'm close to him is if he starts throwing out that instant move, I'll just throw out the resolve attack. You notice how I'm going to use that to get away from moves I cannot dodge if I'm too deep. That's purely what I'm going to do here. And I'm getting a pretty lucky pattern so far. That's one of the ones that's dangerous. The double swip is, the kick is what you want. The double swipe is kind of the instant delete this move, it's dog shit, it doesn't work, it shouldn't exist, it ruins the fight. And then this throw has a really weird hitbox where if you're this close to the boss and attacking him, it misses you. So if you want to maximize your damage here, you don't want to knock him down. That was it just then. Notice how I cancelled immediately into my move. and then because I've got so much resolve and it builds resolve, I cancel into another one, and I'm just going to wait on it and then finish him off with a nice micro stutter there, and the resolve attack from the hammer and the chisel, and that's the end of Imrod. It could have been quicker, it could have been cleaner, it could have been more masochistic, but no roll on this game, as it turns out, isn't very fun. It's nowhere near as fun as I was hoping, and here is Crucix. This is where it gets really, really weird. So, this move here, when you knock this boss down, these 3 arrows, I don't know how to dodge that with the tool sets that I'm using. I just don't. It's so accurate, it never misses, and the tech that I have to dodge the 10 barrage doesn't work for it. So, because when you run behind this boss, he still shoots you and it goes through his body, and I've already complained about that, so I'm not going to do it again. The only real way to fight this guy without using both special ability... Just then, by the way, guys, that was me trying to do a special ability. That wasn't me trying to harden, but the input is so shit that I get hardens as I'm going for it, which I really hate, and you can't change the mapping to make it one button. It's very frustrating, and you'll see that a few times. But you'll notice I'm not using harden for any kind of positional advantage, except for this. This right here is me using harden. Everything else is me trying to get a move that's not coming out. And then this is just so long enough that when he does both of his jumps, you're still in the iframes from it, so you don't even have to do the no-roll strat that I came up with for that. And that's really, really handy to get this first form down. The first form is very consistent and really, really... I'm not going to say reliable, because this game is odd like that, but here is the second form. So my strategy was to bait the kick on this move, attack the boss, and then build up resolve until I could hit him with a bunch of resolve moves from the Hallowed Sword. The thing here is, when you use this weapon, and when you roll to cancel and to dodge through his attacks, you can put pressure on this boss as he stands up where you will dodge him, where you will stun him reliably, and you can keep him in this endless resolve pool and endless knockdown pool. But because I don't have any dodge at my capabilities in this run, I have to linger on the hits a bit longer, and I could have done 1 or 2 extra hits there and then cancelled, but this was one of the first recordings I did, so I didn't come back and attempt any more until the good one, and then, of course, this one just proved to be so goddamn miraculous that I wanted to share it, because this boss has a huge issue with it, and it's this. The knockdown that kick does sets you up for a full punish, and it's knockdown into advantage instead of disadvantage. You are being rewarded instead of punished, and it's really, really odd. And in my walkthrough for Shellless, I recommended that you did that for this boss. However, in this run, I end up getting into this loop of him kicking me down, and then he stops doing it. And I don't know if the developers tweaked something, or if I just got really odd AI, but I get the feeling that something was different. I don't know how that missed, by the way. I've actually never missed with that resolve move in some really odd situations. And you can actually hear me in the game kind of confused just then, because I made a mistake here where I actually left my microphone on while recording because I'm so unused to my new setup for recording, and I did an impromptu session, so you can hear me complaining when things are going wrong in the actual audio. This move here is a guaranteed punish after he does the 3 slams into the quick hammer. You can punish that with a running attack and get out free. That's the best move to bait if you don't want to mess around with any of the crazy things that this boss has. And the issue here is that he has 2 combos, and both of those combos start really quickly. They have massive horizontal range, they track unbearably, and there's almost no wizardry that you can really do to it to get around it. This move here has some flexibility, but none of it is guaranteed to give you any kind of sexy hitbox pornography. And then he cancels immediately into that big horizontal one. That's me getting mad at the game. And this is at the point where I realised that maybe the AI has changed, and if it has, that's for the best. It's not the tweak that I would have done personally, but it's the tweak that they might have done, maybe a quick fix, because I've never seen this boss so eager not to do the kick knockdown. And the easiest way to tell that the boss is going to do it at a distance is your seal will flash before he even does anything. If the seal doesn't flash, you're going to get his other moves. This horizontal move here is really, really good to parry, and you can do some awesome setups. And what you can do with this is, you can hit him, stun him. As he gets up, you can attack him. As soon as he attacks, you can use the resolve move to knock him down. Keep on building. hit him again, stun him again, then when you get to 1 bar of resolve, whenever he recovers after knockdown, he always does that standard horizontal move. You can then parry that horizontal move, put him down again, beat him up, get resolve back, detonate the bomb, and then go back into another knockdown. And then from there you can pretty much finish the boss off. Even on New Game Plus 6, if you choose to dodge and parry and use some of these knockdown loops and these knockdown strats with the resolve, you can kill these bosses really quickly. It's absolutely brutal and insane, and on one side it's really cool because it shows, you know, if you use your abilities correctly, you can do amazing things, but on another side it really showcases just how busted and how bad these bosses are in design in many ways. Because they look excellent, they've got some cool tools, but they simply don't have enough tools and they have no answer for these stun loops. And I'm not even using the biggest sword here. The biggest sword is the sword that stuns the most. It's just on this guy you just don't have the time to hit him with it unless you really time it right. Like if you were to look at somebody like Tarsus, you can knock Tarsus down with one R2 into a running R2. It's guaranteed on everything except for post-knockdown wake-up casting of that ice spell where he gets almost unbeatable poise. But look at this, he refuses to do that loop, and part of me is really glad, but it did make this really odd, and it's given me way more opportunity to speak about it. So in this phase, he can do this attack that he keeps doing, he can do the move where he does the weird spin that leads into the spikes in the ground, he can do that running range move that he seems not to want to do now, and then he can do that random thrust. And that random thrust, I told you on my walkthrough, I think it might be a grab. I was hoping it was a grab. I've never been hit by it because it's so easy to get away from and to dodge. I got hit by it and it's just a thrust. If that was a grab, it could have been really cool. And I don't know why the bosses don't have more grabs. The only boss that seems to have one is Grisha. And she's a mini-boss, that's why she's not included on this list. And ironically enough, Grisha's one of the best bosses in the game, because there's a few parts of that pattern where you can do some really interesting stuff. And the only issue with that fight is, of course, the icicles. The icicles don't add anything, and that's their true crime. They're an idea that could have been really cool, really dynamic, and really dangerous, and instead they're just random garbage. But here's the spin that you can punish. You'll notice I'm doing an interesting punish on this. I didn't do it just then. I was doing the swapping into the big sword from the running chisel moveset to get the really fast swing and the big 70+ damage. I'm going to do it here, guys. Watch this. So after he does his move that I can punish, my running attack is going to transition into a weapon change, and it's going to hit for martyr sword damage using the chisel's moveset. And in Dark Souls, this is something known as the move swap glitch. In this game, it's 100% intentional because it takes no trickery, it takes no skill, it takes almost no timing, and it's really cool, but it's completely unnecessary because you'll never need to do it. And there goes Crucix, a boss that I like, but he needs a lot of tweaks. I might actually do a critique of the bosses because they all need a big tweak. And then here's Tarsus. So at the very beginning, if you run to the left, Tarsus will dash behind you. Where he goes from here seems to be random. I don't understand how you can imitate Sister Fried and then fuck up the majestic nature of her move. It's really frustrating. But once he does his spins, he'll either do 2 or a bunch of them. He'll then crystallize and come towards you. He will spawn wherever you're facing, and then when you're facing, you want to proceed to punish him accordingly. With no Hadern in the first phase and no parry, you can't do any of the crazy setups that I like to do for this boss. However, I've replaced them with new setups that involve not rolling. So the only danger here is if he goes into his combo up close, then you will have to cancel into your special move to get the iframes. But if you keep him controlled, sometimes he doesn't do it, sometimes he does. There's so many features in this fight that make me scratch my head. It's quite frustrating. But there's the knockdown. Tarsus is very consistent to knock down. The only times he's not is when he has been knocked down and he recovers into that ice on the floor move. I've hit him with 4 R2s and he still didn't go down. It makes me think that maybe he's in some kind of state where he cannot go down. So be very careful punishing that, because you'll just end up getting hit by the ice. But this is where this fight goes from being really consistent and really easy to, if he does the dashing move, you are dead. Because dodging the dashing move, not this one, it's the one that comes out of nowhere, the one that's instant. And what I'm going to do here, this is his spell in the ground.
That move is the worst.
I get really angry during recording for this.
It pushes you away.
It's pretty frustrating. I don't like this because even if you use the ability with their chisel to fire the chisel at him, one of the icicles will still hit you, which is really frustrating. But this can be parried, and I did that for just messing around. It didn't flash the seal. I thought, why not? And then the damage was really shit. So I regret doing that because I didn't need to. But here's how I like to fight Tarsus in the second phase. I noticed that this instant move will only happen when he's at enough distance to do it, when he cancels into that sprint, or when you're in front of him after he's done another move. So if you run off axis from him and get him to skate, and you punish the skate by attacking late, you can do 1R1 into a running R2, get a knockdown, build some of your resolve, and then boom, I knew he was going to do it, so that's why I cancelled immediately, and I managed to iframe through that instant attack, which needs to be deleted because it's fucking garbage. I get another knockdown into some more damage, and I'm going to back away. The moment he skates, I'm going to chase him, and I'm going to whiff him. If I can whiff punish, and then he does this again, that's really bad RNG and really frustrating. I do have the Ballistazooka, but usually the reload time is so long, he'll kill you after you hit him. Especially if you get unlucky, and I don't want to use the Ballistazooka, I hate it. I can't take it off my back, they haven't patched it so that you can remove it. It's just ugly and stupid, but really, really funny. So I'm going to go near him to make him slide. If he doesn't slide, I'm going to back out to mid-range again. And right here, you can no-roll that move, but there's a bit of a mix-up on it. Sometimes he just pivots and it touches you. Sometimes he doesn't do that pivot and you're fine. So instead, I just safely used resolve, and then here's the waiting for him to slide and whiff punishing his recovery. Get away from him. This might be an instant charge. It wasn't. Make him slide. This is a move. That's unparryable. Go near him, but not in front. He skates away. Punish the skate. He skates backwards. He'll generally charge towards you. You can either charge him down or see what he does. But as long as you're in a mid-range and not in front of him, he will choose to skate over almost everything else. And he keeps doing this. So that move there, you can do the hammer's double trigger special move and last through all of it and do good damage to the boss. But when you recover, it's not in your hands whether or not you can get away from danger, because he's going to do some kind of setup on you, and if you're not rolling, you can't iframe through it. So it'll work until the one time it doesn't, and you die. And that's the problem here. All of this at any moment, if he decides to do that instant slash, which I'm trying to condition him into not doing, I'm dead, because there's nothing I can do outside of hardening, parrying, or dodging. And I'm trying not to do those things. So, but that was the end of Tarsus, and I made that look really easy. But I'm telling you guys, it's really not. And it's not because it's not designed right. The bosses in this game look great, they've got really cool tools, really cool features, but there's usually one thing that makes all of them a pain in the ass for horrible reasons, and it could be so easily rectified and adjusted, and they'd be much better. Because I really like Mortal Shell, and as a starting point for an indie developer, they've done a superb job. It's just, I've killed some of the most interesting bosses in the history of video games, and I've studied them and understood them and tried to figure out everything that makes them great. And these bosses, as great as they look, they're lacking in ways which I really hope they can address in whatever they do next, because they've obviously got a talent for this, they just don't quite have that level of finesse that some of those other titles do. But thank you for watching, and most importantly, you take care now.